Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week I'm going to start and do some more storage units in the shed and use up some of the spare material I've got. See you in a minute. Now here we are, 1 week, 2 days in to the lockdown of potentially 12 weeks for us. The one thing I am starting to worry about slightly is the amount of timber I've got for the amount of projects that I need to do. Because we can't go out and get materials, I'm having to make sure that I use whatever I've got wisely. But there are some things that need putting away still in here. And in this case it's all these little black cases that I've got for the camera stuff. They really could do with going on a shelf somewhere because they're just lying around. Once they're on the shelf I can then label them and I can not have to pick 5 up to find the last one that's got the thing I want in it. I'm just going to go through the usual procedure, dig out from the roof what materials I've got, see what's suitable and see if we can cobble something together. I think the biggest problem I'll have is that I could really do with something about 750mm long, and most of the MDF is going to be 610 cuts off sheets or half sheet. Oh, 660, that might be okay. We'll see what we've got. A bit thick though. Again, I'm not carrying a lot of weight with these, so I'm more inclined to use thin ply if I can. Oh, 940, we're cooking on gas. That's better. Now this is where I'm intending to put it. From there across the top of the window, it's an area that won't be any problem with dropping the ceiling height at all, and effectively I just want to put them like that in 2 rows of 3. It'll mean I've got to move the clock, but that's no big deal. That can go over the far side, I can still see it. Now I think I've got a solution. I've got a piece of 9mm MDF that's about the right width. It's slightly shallower than the cases, but that doesn't really matter because they're not going to fall over because they've got 10mm sticking out. It's about the right width. I can cut it down to the width I need. I've got some, that will do me the 3 wide. I was going to do complicated sides, middles, middle platform to put the next ones on top, but again it's just using material that I don't really need to put another layer in there, just to put another layer of cases on, when in fact I can pull 2 cases out at once or take one out and put the other one back. It just seems a bit wasteful at the moment when I just haven't got the material to do it. I'm going to have a back of 6mm ply that will be glued and screwed on at the base. I mean, effectively all I'm doing now is making a glorified shelf. It was going to be more complicated than that, but I just don't think it warrants it. Rip that down to height, cut it down to width. I've got some hefty 18mm ply, no 12, 16mm, must be 18mm ply, to do the ends. So I'm doing a full end like that, which coincidentally is exactly the right sort of height to go in there anyway, so I don't need to do anything other than cut it down. Now the problem is I can't do all the dividers out of that because the piece I've got isn't big enough. I can only get 2 dividers from it. at two ends from it. I've got enough for one more, but what I think I'll do is to make one more that's that shape, and therefore I can just put two angled pieces in the middle. The only real purpose they're serving is bracing that back to the bottom to make the whole thing more uniform, so that when I screw it against the wall it'll hold the shelf. You may wonder why I didn't use the circular saw on that, but it's just so much of a faff to get the whole of the module out and put it back in place of the router that it's as quick to use the little pull saw. Right, that's got me a kit of parts. It's much more simple than I'd originally intended, but sometimes simplicity is the best thing to have. Basically we've just got a shelf with two ends, two intermediates that can now be glued and screwed up. Most of the load is going to obviously pull that way. It'll be sitting on a ledge at the bottom, very small ledge, so that there won't be any shear force downwards. Fortunately, along that top edge I've actually got a stud running the full width, so with quite a lot of screws along there, I think we should be able to hold it okay. We're not carrying a lot of weight, these things are very light, and as I say, I was going to put a middle shelf in, but I've abandoned that idea now. No reason at all why I should waste material on that, when the aim of this is not to make prettiest shelf in the world, it's to make a shelf that gets stuff off my workbenches. So that's the cases I've got at the moment. They'll go in there. I'll probably get one more, don't know what for yet, but just to make it symmetrical and fill the space. So that needs to now just be glued and pinned up, and we'll give it a coat of paint. Now the centre dividers, I'm just going to glue those in and then I'll screw through afterwards. Right, that is it now, ready for paint. I think it's easy to see from that how easy everything's working now with all of these tools in this bottom tray, screws right underneath. battery runs out, I can just get it charged. Just makes it so much easier having everything organised. Base coat of thinned emulsion really to start with, or a primer, just to get the grain sealed up on, particularly on the MDF, that doesn't take paint very well unless it's got a decent prime on it. So there we are, 3 coats of white paint later. Probably should take up spraying, I suppose, really. It would get a much better finish, but we've got there in the end. It doesn't cover very well on the MDF anyway with emulsion paint, but so that should now be in the fit position to put up on the wall. Got the screws all in there. I'm just going to hang it from the top. It sits on a batten on the bottom, so it's not going anywhere. The only real forces are going to be pulling outwards that way. So we'll put it into position and see if it works. Comforting to feel the screws really pulling in there. At least I've hit the batten that's under. This is the head rail of the panel that it's hitting. Right, there we have it. It's not quite what I intended originally. I suppose there is always the option for me to put a shelf back on top if I want to, but it's going to fulfill the essential need to get rid of these out of the way. Got to buy another one because I'm one short at the moment, but the way things currently are, there's no stock anywhere. But that's it now, those can be labelled up. They're safe and sound out the way, bit more junk out the way. Just got to move the clock, that's not a big deal either. So there we go, quick, easy, pretty solid shelf, that's not going anywhere. Not a lot to do this week, I'm afraid, partly because we haven't got the materials, partly because we've had to rearrange everything, but we'll get there. Hope you enjoyed the video. Look forward to seeing you next week. I'll try and get something a bit more interesting. I'll see you then. Bye.